Alright, what's up guys? So I have a hickory underhand block set up over here behind me, and I just want to go over some of the big mechanical issues that I used to have with my swing. You know, I used to do a lot of cordwood work and I was a self-taught axeman, so I self-taught myself how to swing an axe. And whenever I started competing, I started working with a pro, and he pretty much rebuilt my entire swing over the last couple years, and it's really changed my axemanship as a whole. And some of these tips are very generic, and those are kind of the ones I'm going to share with you guys. Just the big mechanical portions of a swing. There's a lot of little tips and tricks that I haven't quite figured out yet. The things I'm not going to share because a lot of these little things are more person by person basis, and you really just need a trained eye watching you to kind of tweak your swing, kind of like a golf coach. But as far as the big mechanics of the swing, I'm going to share with you guys the things that I really do understand that I was doing wrong. And you know, this isn't a how-to video or anything like that. This isn't like a demonstration of how to cut an underhand. I'm just showing you guys some of the things that I used to do really wrong that were really limiting my axemanship and my ability to cut wood. And yeah, I'm just trying to share that, really. Just trying to share how I became a more efficient axeman. And guys, don't think for a second that that these tips would not translate really well over to just general cordwood work, because these pros, their axemanship is just on a different level. It really is. I honestly didn't, truth be told, I didn't believe it. Whenever I first started competing, I thought, you know, these guys wouldn't be able to go out and, you know, cut up a red oak tree with a vintage axe. They could, and it'd be embarrassing for me to cut next to them too. Their axemanship is extremely advanced. They're very skilled, very competent with an axe in their hands. And all of these tips that I'm about to share with you guys would translate beautifully over to cordwood work and make a big difference. But I'm not trying to teach anybody how to swing an axe here. I'm really just going over some of the things that I self-taught myself that I was doing wrong. So the first big issue that I had was windmilling my swing, and I'm gonna kind of work myself back and forth on this block in no particular order, just so you guys can get a better look. But what I was doing, I would strike the block, and then I would swing the axe around, bring it back up to the top, back down into the block. That's windmilling your swing. And you really want to avoid that, because whenever you windmill your swing, you're bringing that axe up, and now you got a lot of sideways momentum pushing the axe this way. So whenever you're trying to bring it back down, you've got to try to straighten it out. So you're straightening it out during your downswing. You don't want to do that. That robs a ton of power from you. And I actually got good enough to where I could time it to where, you know, I didn't have to worry about, you know, that sideways momentum, because I kind of had it built into my swing because I just done it so much. But that's also, it's very counterproductive, because you gain the most energy in basically a straight line with an axe. And whenever you've got any sideways momentum, you're just robbing the downward momentum that you really want. So that momentum that you gain swinging it sideways, coming up like this, it doesn't do anything. And it's just another variable, which I'll get into in a minute, variables. You're just adding another thing that can go wrong into your swing. Say you throw that axe just a little bit harder or a little bit softer, well, now your timing is going to be off trying to bring that axe down. So I'll show you what to do instead of windmilling. I'll show you what I did instead of windmilling. So there's a couple different things that I've tried. There's a couple kind of major mechanical ways to get the axe to the top of the swing that you'll see a lot. One is, instead of sliding this hand out, pull this hand back. So you pull this hand back, bring the axe up, and then back down into the wood. And I'll show you from over here. Kind of pull it up, bring it out, bring it down into the wood. Or you can slide this hand down and pull it up, and then bring it down into the wood. I'll show you from over here. Slide down, up. Or you can do what I do, and that's fixed hand chopping, or club hand chopping, and that's just both your hands are fixed on the bottom of the handle, bring it up, down. That's my favorite method, because it's the simplest. I'll show you over here. Now, I like fixed hand chopping just because it's the simplest. Like, technically, it is the simplest swing because there's the fewest moving parts. And I've found that to be really beneficial to me. The fewer things that can go wrong, the better off I'm going to be. Now, club hand chopping is a lot more physically demanding. but it's a simpler swing. So like it's harder and easier at the same time. And I would personally rather deal with just having to get in better shape and be a little bit stronger versus just having a bad cut in general, because I've been trying to slide hand for years now and I've never felt comfortable doing it. I've never once cut a block slide handing, and whenever that block finally popped off, I stepped off it and I was like, man, that cut felt really good. Never once. I've always just felt really awkward trying to do it. So this winter I'm going to spend a lot of time, and I'm really going to work on my club hand. I'm going to give it a fair go next season, because I mean, I can't be any worse. So because you know, I've been trying slide handing for years and I'm just really not getting any better. So we're going to try fixed hand or club hand chopping, and we're going to see what happens. So next one's going to be arm chopping, swinging with your arms. So I used to only bend my waist just to reach the wood. I would really just try to, you know, chop with my arms. And chopping with your arms is not a good way to get, it's not a good way to cut wood. You're not going to get a whole lot of power that way. Your arms are the smallest limbs on your body, so you don't want to rely on them to swing the axe. You really want to use your hips, your legs, your core, your back. Use as many major muscles as you can to swing that axe instead of just relying on your arms, because your arms are going to burn out really, really quick if you're relying on just your arms. So the more major muscles you can use, the lighter that axe is going to feel, basically, because you know that's a 7-pound axe with a handle on it. It's 7 pounds total, and you know 7 pounds is quite a bit if you're trying to swing with just your arms. But you know, if you're using your whole body to swing that axe, 7 pounds suddenly becomes really light. You know, 7 pounds isn't anything to your back, but it's a lot to your shoulders. So you really want to, like, whenever you go to lift the axe up, and I'm going to show you guys the club handing portion, instead of just bringing my arms up and down, I really almost want to do like a shoulder shrug and like get momentum built. Any little bit of momentum that you can build with a major muscle, you want to do that every little bit. So kind of like shoulder shrug, and then like stand up with your back. And I'm still using my arms, but I'm not relying on them as much. So I'm taking some of the strain off of my arms and placing it on a different part of my body. And another thing is, it's kind of the leg snap. I used to have a really, really bad leg snap habit. It was horrible, and I'll show you guys what I mean. I'd basically come down, and I you know, you'd see these guys on TV, they'd pop their legs really hard at the end of their swing. So that's what I would do. I would pop. And if you notice, whenever I'm doing this, I'm gonna go real slow. I'm gonna exaggerate it some just so you guys can see. I'm going down, I'm popping my legs. Well, now I'm lifting my whole body. Now I'm lifting that axe back up. I want that axe going down and in. I don't want any part of that axe coming back up. And I would snap my legs at the end of a swing, and all I was doing was robbing power from myself. I wasn't gaining anything, I was losing power. And it's because I didn't understand how to do the snap and how to time it. Because it's not a leg snap, it's like a hip pop. And let me show you. So instead of snapping my legs, I want to throw my hips back. I want to throw my hips back, and that's driving my body down more. So it's not a leg snap. It looks like it because your legs do straighten out at the end, but they're not straightening up, they're straightening back. Like I'm snapping my hips back. I'm not even focused on popping my legs at all. My legs just straighten out because of my hips snapping back. So that's really important to pay attention to, because just doing the leg snap, it may look fancy, but you're not getting anywhere with it. You're just making it harder on yourself. And it's so many little things like that that make a really big difference. Because whenever you're trying to swing an axe hard, you know, you're wanting to use as much of your body as you can, and your waist is like the pivot point. Imagine you're a book, right? And right here is the spine of the book, and you're an open book, and you want to slam that book shut. You want to hinge at your waist to get that power to slam that book shut. You want to bend real hard right here with your arms out. That's how you're going to generate the most power. It's not coming from your arms. My arms do most of the work bringing the axe up. And once they get here, I'm basically holding my arms still and I'm just slamming my body down to get that extra pop. And a lot of this is really hard to explain in a video. It's more one of those things that you really just have to get out there and experiment and try it and figure it out, because, you know, Aaron Hovis, he's the guy that's been coaching me, and he spent the last couple of years trying to teach me how to hit hard. And I remember I had a moment where it all clicked. There was a show, there were two shows actually, and I've been working with him for like 2 years at this point, and I wasn't really getting any better. You know, all of my times were still right around a minute and 20 seconds for all of my cuts. You know, my springboard time, I was lucky if I cut anything under 4 minutes. And there was 2 shows in one weekend. One was on Saturday, one was on Sunday, and I drove a long ways to get there. And I went to the show on Saturday, and I did about as good as I always did. I had like a 1 minute underhand, I had like a 1 and 10 second standing block, I had about a 4 minute springboard. It was just really par for the course for me. But at that point I was getting frustrated because I wasn't getting any better. And that night I religiously watched, I binge watched those videos of me from that day over and over and over again, just trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. What am I doing wrong? And then something clicked, and I was like, oh, and I actually like stood up, and in my hotel room I was like practicing my swings, and I was making sure that I was getting like the right movements in there. And the next day, and put it to you this way, on Saturday I got the Tough Luck Award, which was, hey, you did the absolute worst today, but thanks for coming out. And I still have that little trophy in my shop. It's kind of funny. And then the next day I actually placed in 3 events against a lot of people. There was like 80 competitors there. Not all of them were in my division. You know, there's some women, there's some college competitors, but it was a huge show, and I placed in like several events, which I shouldn't have. But something just, it all clicked, and all those moving parts. Basically, I was hitting the block a lot harder, was the only real difference. I remembered all these little tips that I got, and a lot of them kind of fell together, and I was getting a lot more power, and I was getting through my blocks a lot faster. So it really just takes a lot of practice, a lot of repetitiveness, and a lot of slowing things down and focusing. Because one thing I did, I always wanted to race. Every time I'd set up an underhand or a standing block, I'd always just try to cut it as fast as I possibly could, just to practice race speed. And that's not, since I've really started slowing things down a lot, and I haven't been racing. I've just been working on hard hits and form, and it's making a really big difference for me. So, okay, sorry, I'm rambling now. Let's get back to, okay, so we covered windmilling the swing, which was a bad one, arm chopping, which was another bad one, my embarrassing little leg snap, hit pattern. Let's talk about hit pattern real quick. So you really want to imagine that this is like, God, that stuff's stringy. You've got like a clock here, right? And you want to cut clockwise. And I'm going to start down here. I'm going to start at my far. I'm going to do a far hit, a near hit, far hit. And you're just going to work your way around the block like that. You never want to double cut your wood. Let's say I've cut here, I've hit here, and I've hit here. And then I never want to go and hit the same spot twice, especially in harder woods. Trying to hit the same spot twice, basically the axe, the wedge is what stops the axe. It's the profile of the cheeks of the axe. That's what's going to slow it down. And whenever you sink that axe deep, the profile of that axe kind of compresses a lot of wood out. So now you've got a lot of compressed wood around there. You basically just created like a sheath inside of that kerf, or the scarf where your axe bottomed out at. If I hit that same spot again, I'm basically just putting the axe in the sheath. I'm not cutting anything really. And if, let's just say I've already done a pattern and that chip didn't pop out, I'm still just going to keep working the pattern, because basically if like let's say I'm hitting here, I hit here, cut here, cut here, cut here, cut here. Now let's say I hit here and that chip doesn't pop out. Well, I'm not going to hit here again because I've already cut that wood. There's just not enough wood cut over here, and there's not enough wood cut over here yet. Eventually that chip's going to pop out. I'm just going to keep working the same pattern, and eventually that chip will come out. And we've all been there. Every now and then you're going to run into like just a really stubborn block, a really stubborn spot on a tree that just the chips will not come out. My advice is start with a smaller cut. Let's say that happened here. Let's say I cannot get this chip to pop out for the life of me. Instead of hitting out here, I'm going to start going here. I'm going to half that. And then once I V this out, now I'm going to move back over here. Now I'm going to widen my cut back out. Just make the curve smaller and then make it bigger after you know you've already got a lot of wood removed. I guess last thing will be swing arc. Swing arc. I might need to. So this was a really bad one that I had. I would bring the axe straight up and just kind of straight down. And that's because I was mainly arm chopping. And you really want, and I'm still not great with it, but you really want to get a lot of swing. You want to get that axe out real far. Not too far. You don't want to be like perfectly straight out there. You want to have just a little bit of bend in your elbow, just a little bit, but you definitely want to you want that axe to take a nice, you want it to give the most opportunity to gain speed before you come in contact with the wood. And going like this isn't good. You really want to get it out more. Oh, and exhale on your downswings, and inhale on your reset. That about covers all like the big mechanical parts of the underhand. Yeah, I guess we'll stop the video there. I guess one more thing I could talk about is just handle length. You know, experiment with handle lengths. In America, there's only like one person that makes competitive racing axe handles, and I personally feel like they're too long for me. You know, I'm not a very tall guy and I have a pretty big wingspan. I have almost a 74-inch wingspan and I'm only 5'9", so I'm like average height, but I have the arms of someone that's like 6'2", so those longer handles just felt really awkward for me. I switched to a handle that was just like 1.5 inches shorter, and it made a really big difference in my accuracy and my consistency, because that's really key, is repetitiveness and consistency. But so yeah, just get fitted for your handle. See you know, don't get married to one handle length. You know, try a bunch of different ones until you find that one that's just the perfect fit. But yeah, I guess yeah, we'll stop the video there. I appreciate you guys listening to me ramble. I hope this helps someone. And you know, like I said, I'm not trying to teach anybody how to swing an axe. I'm not a coach, and I'm not a very good teacher either. This is me just sharing some of the really helpful things that I was taught that really improved my axemanship. And anyways, I hope you guys have a good Christmas.